Welcome, everyone. I truly appreciate you stopping by today. There's something that's been weighing on me, and I can't keep it to myself any longer. What I'm about to share is almost impossible to believe. She went overboard in the Bahamas. He paddled back alone. And for nearly 8 hours, he said nothing. But that's not even the part that will keep you up tonight. Because when investigators pulled the GPS data from Brian Hooker's own devices, his own phone, his own technology, it placed him somewhere he never once mentioned to police. The sailboat?
Seized.
The dinghy?
Seized.
A cadaver dog has already been on that vessel. And a federal grand jury in Michigan is issuing subpoenas right now. Lynette Hooker went into the water on April 4th, 2026, somewhere in the Bahamas, and the man who was supposed to love her paddled home without her. Brian Hooker says he is innocent, but the evidence? The evidence has a very different story to tell. Lynette Hooker was not someone who sat still. At 55, she was physically active, sharp, and deliberate. She and Brian, 58, married 25 years, sold their Michigan home, and moved full-time onto a 50-foot sailboat they named the Soulmate. They documented every mile on YouTube and Instagram under the Sailing Hookers, working their way from a small two-person boat to a life built entirely on open water. Their last post was March 2026, paddleboarding in Marsh Harbor, Bahamas. Two people living exactly the life they chose. On April 4th, 2026, around 7:30 p.m., they left the Abaco and in Hopetown aboard an 8-foot dinghy heading for the Soulmate near Elbow Cay. Lynette never arrived. Brian reached Marsh Harbor Boat Yard at 4 a.m. He did not report her missing until the following morning. Brian told the Royal Bahamas Police Force that rough seas caused Lynette to bounce overboard from their 8-foot dinghy. She was wearing the engine's safety lanyard on her wrist, he said, which cut the motor the moment she fell, leaving him no choice but to paddle to shore. Richard Cook of Hopetown Volunteer Fire and Rescue confirmed Brian also stated that Lynette was not wearing a life jacket that night. On Facebook the following morning, Brian posted that he was heartbroken, describing the incident as a cascade of failures driven by unpredictable seas and high winds. But that was not the only version of events Brian offered. Private Facebook Messenger messages obtained by CBS News showed Brian telling a friend that Lynette was actively swimming toward shore, directly contradicting his earlier claim that he immediately lost sight of her after she went overboard. Then came the recorded phone call. Blaine Stevenson, a family friend, began recording his conversations with Brian because Brian was, in his own words, all over the place. On that recording, Brian stated clearly that the dinghy key was not attached to him, a direct contradiction of what he told Bahamian police, where he claimed Lynette had been wearing it when she fell. Carly Aylesworth, Lynette's daughter, told CNN that her mother never operated that dinghy and would never have been holding that key in the first place. She also told CNN that when Brian called to inform her of her mother's disappearance, his tone was monotone and relaxed, not the response of someone who had just lost his wife of 25 years in a terrifying accident at sea. Across the street from the Hookers' Sand Lake home in Michigan, neighbor Jordan Plentz told the Detroit News that she had learned about the state of the marriage directly from Lynette's mother, Darlene Hamlet, who lived with the couple. Plentz described the marriage as carrying a long history of violence and said she was not shocked when she heard Lynette had vanished.
3 accounts.
3 different audiences. None of them matched. On April 8th, Brian was arrested by the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Commissioner Shanta Knowles held him for 5 days, questioning him for over 3 hours on April 10th about his relationship with Lynette and whether he had caused her harm. On April 13th, attorney Terrell Butler secured his release, telling reporters prosecutors had no evidence to hold him. Brian left the Bahamas without speaking to waiting reporters and returned to the United States, where he hired Grand Rapids attorney Crystal Marie Hauser. Hauser asked the public to treat Brian with the same consideration they would want for themselves. Investigators, however, kept moving. In May 2026, the Coast Guard Investigative Service seized the Soulmate approximately 40 nautical miles off Melbourne, Florida, transferring it first to Fort Pierce, Florida, where FBI forensic teams in black shirts, tan pants, and blue gloves were seen processing the vessel behind crime scene tape. It was later moved to Fort Lauderdale for continued examination. On June 2nd, Kais seized the 8-foot dinghy still sitting in the Bahamas, deploying a cadaver dog alongside investigators before transporting it to the United States for further forensic work. The FBI is processing all recovered physical and digital evidence at its facility in Quantico, Virginia. What investigators found inside Brian's electronic devices became the turning point. GPS data extracted from his devices showed his phone traveling out onto the Sea of Abaco, stopping at a specific location, then returning, a track that did not match the location he gave police at all. The Soulmate's onboard AIS, its automatic identification system, told the exact same contradicting story. Homicide prosecutor Tad DiBiase, speaking on Brian Enton's News Nation podcast Brian Enton Investigates, stated that both the personal GPS and the AIS data were particularly damning, adding that an inconsistent story from the last known person to see a missing spouse is very concerning in any no-body investigation. The Soulmate was also equipped with a FLIR thermal imaging camera system valued at over $33,000, designed to map heat signatures in total darkness and set to automatically upload encrypted tracking data to a cloud account. Federal agents are currently pursuing that data through international legal instruments. Security footage captured from a neighboring vessel recorded a sudden bright flash near the Soulmate at exactly 7:47 p.m., just 17 minutes after the couple left the Abaco Inn, and a second unexplained event near the vessel around midnight. Investigators are cross-referencing both timestamps against the cloud data. The GPS said Brian was somewhere else. The AIS confirmed it, and the Coast Guard was not finished. On June 2, 2026, the 154-foot Coast Guard cutter Margaret Norvell arrived in Marsh Harbor carrying a specialized team of divers, underwater vehicles, drones, and a cadaver dog. The Bahamian government had granted the United States permission to search previously unexamined areas of the Sea of Abaco, areas that only became relevant after GPS data extracted from Brian's electronic devices exposed direct contradictions in the location he had given investigators from the very beginning. For the first time, federal searchers were looking in the right place. The search ran through June 8. No body was recovered. No new physical evidence was publicly announced. Carly Aylesworth told ABC News she was grateful for every effort made. She said she was happy investigators had been able to obtain Brian's location data and use it to identify new areas to search. Lynette's close friend Blaine Stevenson told CBS News she hoped the renewed search was a step in the right direction for justice for Lynette. The case is now being formally examined under the federal statute that covers the possible foreign murder of a United States national. A federal grand jury has been convened in Michigan. Subpoenas have already been served to individuals close to the family. The FBI continues processing all evidence at its facility in Quantico, Virginia. The Coast Guard Investigative Service has confirmed its criminal investigation remains fully active. Both agencies are working in parallel. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. He continues to deny all wrongdoing. His current whereabouts have not been publicly confirmed. His Bahamian attorney Terrell Butler and his United States attorney Crystal Marie Hauser continue to represent him. Lynette Hooker has not been found. She has not been legally declared dead. She was 55 years old, a sailor, a mother, and someone who documented every mile of the life she deliberately chose. The full truth of what happened on the Sea of Abaco on the night of April 4, 2026 has not yet been told. This case is not over. If this case matters to you, share this video. Every share puts Lynette's name in front of someone who has not heard it yet. Subscribe to Fatal Secrets and drop a comment telling us which piece of evidence you find most damning. We read every single one.